Hi everybody, Carrie Baughcum here. Welcome back to another episode. Super excited for you guys to be back with me inside my classroom. I had so much fun recording those last two updates on my game. I thought that I would make it a monthly occurrence to bring you into my classroom, share with you where I'm at with my game, where my students are at with my game, where our journey is, what updates I've made, and what learning has happened for me as a teacher of a gamified classroom. So let's get started. All right, you guys, so I don't know about you, but February is a tough month for us here in the Midwest, and we're in the northwest suburbs of Chicago. We are a week off of a super snowstorm, so we're still in the middle of winter. There's snow on the ground, and then today it's rainy and dreary. And on top of that, I have 8th grade students, so they're in kind of a flux of I'm still in middle school, but now I'm supposed to think about high school and my future. And it's just become this long drudge. And I'm fresh off of a huge update in my game. So this month comes along and I'm noticing that lull of the students. I'm getting a little bit of a lull. February is a hard month to get through, and it takes a lot of extra oomph, I think, to get into spring, whether you're a teacher or a student. And so I find that when I start to run out of energy, the best way for me to boost my energy is to boost my game. So the first thing I did was I added a couple more spots on my game. My daughters and my family and I, we love to play board games. So I'm always inspired by board game elements, and I love to bring them into my classroom and throw them on my board. And one of our favorite games to play is Space Team, and they have anomalies in there, things that you have to do as a team before the game can move on. So I added a couple of anomaly spaces onto my board, and I'm creating cards to go along with it that will cause the student to have to do a task, sometimes kind of silly, often very fun, before the next round of gameplay so that they can move from their spot. And I also have these planets over here. And the idea behind those was that if you wanted to jump off, if you had a ship, you could jump off the Monopoly board and go to one of those planets, and you could complete certain tasks on those planets to earn even more XP than you could as just a regular traveling Jedi in space. And then once you've completed that task, you kind of leveled up in rank for that as a planet visitor, and then you could jump back on the board. Well, my students are not very adventurous when it comes to exploring those planets. They really like consistency and routine and a structured approach to their game. They like to know what to expect, and I found that surprises are not something that they enjoy. I've had a couple of students jump off of board and onto planet, but they've been very quick to return. I do think that those planets hold a rich experience for my students, so I added a space on the board called a wormhole. And so when students land on that space, they will instantly be transported onto one of the planets, where they'll get 3 different tasks, from really simple, easy, low stakes to super hard. And depending on the difficulty of that task, they'll get rewarded with XP or items. And so my hope is that I will have more students jumping off board, forced to jump off the board, but that experience will fill them up, and they'll realize how exciting it is to be earning this XP, to be having these learning experiences that are new, that will provide them with more experiences and some adventure that's not just moving around the board and paying rent. So that was my second addition. My other additions were, I took my cantina, I had it on a Google Doc, I printed it out and put it up there, and it's all the things that students can buy from the cantina. You know, things that you're going to need in space: fuel, water, rope. I did a toolkit, a jetpack, some nitrous oxide, and each of those things does different things for space travelers in the game. And so I took that off of digital and put it on the board. I also opened up something called a freighting company, and that will allow my students to buy items to upgrade their ship. And depending on what they are that they upgrade their ship with, it will allow their ship to travel in different directions and different speeds around the board. So it's been super fun to add those. I also, we're right into third quarter now. So right around third quarter is also when the spaces on my board start to be all purchased. So I also like to open up the colonies option where students can build colonies, and then those if you build 3 colonies, that turns into a spaceport. And so students that land on that property, when properties have colonies and spaceports, they have to pay more XP and rent when they land on those. So I'm waiting for the students just to get used to those things being in that space so that they can start to visit them and activate them. We also, third quarter, we start to play the game more. The students have gotten good at becoming more systematic in play. And for me, the board game element of my game, many gamifiers keep their game very meta and like in their head, but for me, I just needed that concreteness of the board game and a visual. And so by playing the game more, it brings in more elements of that game because I've been able to add storyline spaces into the board game that's brought out more storyline. It's forced students to use more items, and it forces them to interact with the components that I have in my game more frequently, and it starts to bring more importance to the things that they've been working so hard at. And it's not just about earning points or being the best in the leaderboard. So third quarter and fourth quarter are really my most favorite times in my game. I try to add elements of surprise and suspense throughout the other days that we're not playing to keep the energy high during the winter months. But then the added play of the board game and the storyline really starts to infuse my class, and the students really start to get excited because it brings experiences into my classroom, stories and moments in my classroom, and that's where all the rich memories come from. So if that wasn't enough, I do have one more thing in store, but I'm going to save that for next month, that oh my gosh, I'm super excited to share with you guys. Yeah, so that's it for this month. Please leave me any questions down below, or if you have suggestions for things that you do in your classroom that you think might also work in my classroom, or just leave me your thoughts about what's happening in my classroom with my game. I would love to hear them. Until next time, you guys, whether it's bringing out the best in your students, learning, creating, or just being you, there are no rules. Later, guys.